Hello, welcome to Fiction in Real Life with Heather Moore, Jennifer Moore, Julie Daines, and Jen Geigle Johnson. We're so happy to be here with you. If you couldn't tell, we really like making these episodes. We're super excited. Today's going to be another fun one. We've got lots of military stuff to talk to you about and some spy-ish kind of stuff. Anyway, stay tuned. It's all coming down this episode. We are going to tell you a little bit about what we're working on first. Heather, why don't you go first? Let us know.
Oh, sure. I am just finishing up my World War II novel. I have it drafted and it's getting ready. I'm just cleaning it up and going to send it to beta readers in a couple of weeks. So that book will probably come out fall 2023. So I'm working a little ways in advance.
Awesome. I love it. And Jennifer Moore.
I've been promoting this last couple of weeks for this book, Where Dreams Meet. It's an American history collection, and we're going to send a copy to a commenter on this episode. So just comment wherever you get your video cast.
And Julie.
So I just wrapped up my Sherwood Forest Regency, and I'm working on drafting a new book that I'm pretty excited about, and stay tuned.
Oh, I'm excited about that. And I am getting ready to launch A Tenuous Betrothal, which is Royals #3. So we're working on finding some fun quotes to share and graphics and marketing stuff. It's not all that exciting, but I like that part because I love to hear what happens when the first few people start reading the book, as long as they like it. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Well, okay. I've been seeing some good pre-reviews coming from your book, so.
Oh, good. I need to look closer. I'm happy to hear that. Now I'm going to turn this off after we're done and go find them. This is fun. So it's really exciting to work with you three because we're all always working on something, and authors are just some of my best friends. So I love it. Okay, just in case you didn't catch that, we are giving away a book today. So everybody comment and there it is, Where Dreams Meet. And it's an anthology that Jennifer Moore is participating in, and we're super, super excited about it. Beautiful cover. If you comment anywhere, you're entered to win. So any of our Facebook pages and our YouTube account will help you win this awesome book. Okay, so as we said, we have some stories to share with a military bend somewhat. And we're going to start with Jennifer Moore and hear what she has to say. Okay.
So today's my grandpa's birthday, and I insisted that we pay a little tribute to him. He was in the military for his, up until he retired. That's my grandpa, and we called him Par. His name is James Elliott Tidwell, and so his initials are JET, which was cool because he flew jets, like some of the first jets. And he was a test pilot. He flew, he was a guard from General MacArthur during the Korean War. And I'm just going to tell you this really quick story about him. His squadron, I guess, I don't quite know exactly how they did this, but when there's like a dangerous mission, they put, the squadron, like, and everybody's name into a hat, and they draw, and whoever draws out has to do the dangerous missions. And he had the most dangerous mission. He had to go like creep along on the ground, while everybody else is like flying, and creep along and do some recon because they didn't have the same, tools we have. They didn't have satellites and radar and all the stuff to know where the enemy was and everything. And he had to do that by himself and somehow get the information back and forth. And he, when they drew that, everybody was pretty sure that Par wouldn't be making it back. And so they waited, and my grandma was in Japan with the other officers' wives. And she just tells the story that they were kind of all gathered at one of the houses, and they probably were all trying to distract her, because, just keep her spirits up while this mission was happening. And it was later than it should have been. He should have been back, or the squadron should have been back. And she said that the door opened, and this man covered with lice and dirt, and he was filthy and gross. He had hairy face, and he stumbled in the door. And she said all of those ladies went crazy, just jumping over. They couldn't get to him fast enough. And they were just all hugging him and all excited to see him. He was just a lovely guy. And we shouldn't say if we're going to book it or not, because of course everybody wants to book it. So we can move on. Yes, all of us want to book it because he's awesome.
What do I say to that? I guess I have to book it. Julie, what do you think? Are you booking it?
Me? Jennifer, I love you with my whole heart.
It's not a pretty story. It's kind of scary.
But I just don't do war stories. I just don't. I don't really love war movies or anything like that. So it's an amazing story. And the other stories that you've told us about Parr make him sound like the coolest guy ever. But I just don't do war stories.
That's okay.
What about you, Heather?
So I think I would book it just because I do read a lot of war stories. Sorry, Julie. Not obviously in a row because, and I like the ones that just have a really inspirational side to them. Then I think this is inspirational.
Yeah, I think I would book it only for that scene of all the lovely ladies in their 1940s pretty clothes, just dropping everything and running at this lice-infested dirty guy just because they loved him so much. So maybe
Jennifer,
that scene.
I think you should write it, Jennifer, so that we can read like what happened. I want to know what happened while he was gone and everything in between. So you should book it.
And you could even call it Jet or Parr. I mean, that's super cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
All right, I love it. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Julie, you're up. What do you got for us?
Okay, so my father, this is a story about my dad. He was in the Central Intelligence Committee, which is a division of the CIA, and his focus has always been terrorism and international relations and things like that. And so he actually had to go over to Russia quite frequently for intelligence issues. And this was, clear back when it wasn't Russia, it was the USSR, and it was that, the whole communist thing. But one time when he was on a trip back there, he was with a guy. So he has actually never told us exactly why he was on any of these trips because it's all been top secret. But he did tell us that he was back in Moscow with this other guy from the CIC. And he was kind of a newer guy. And so my dad wanted to show him, I don't know, a party trick or something. I don't know. But they were on this road and it was dark. It was nighttime. And he had this guy wait on the other side of this busy road. And then my dad crossed up over the pedestrian overpass thing to a phone booth on the side of the road. And he just stood in that phone booth for a couple minutes and pretended like he was tampering with the receiver of the telephone. And then he hung it back up and walked back over the other pass. And they just sat on this bench, the two of them across the road watching. And then within 5 minutes, a swarm of KGB arrived at the phone booth. They're checking out the phone, disassembling the whole thing. Everyone's standing guard. It was just crazy. Just within a couple of minutes of my dad doing that, all these KGB just flocked to the area. So that's my story. I don't know how patriotic it is, but I will say that my short time in Russia, in the USSR, made me so grateful to live in a country where we have, the freedoms that we have. So that's my story.
I love it. I feel kind of tender about that. I think that most of our kids have no idea what that was like, really.
I think they really have no idea. It's so taken for granted in the younger generation that they don't even know, I don't think. Yeah. Wasn't it you, Jennifer, who was saying that was one of the things you liked about Stranger Things was the way we in the 80s that grew up in the 80s understand what it meant to really fear from the USSR.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it reminds me of Heather's book with Bob Inama and his whole spy. He was a spy in the Cold War. It's just, it's an era that maybe we all think everyone knows about, but they don't. So interesting story.
Because we didn't have social media back then or internet news. It's you would just see a headline. And I mean, I was in college during the time. And so I didn't, or even high school, obviously, because Cold War is really long. But I wasn't watching the 10 o'clock news. with my parents. I was in bed or doing homework. And so I would miss a lot of stuff. And I think that we don't know all this. And so when I did do research for the Slow March of Light, it was just astounding to me. Like this, the headlines I knew, but then now I was learning the stories behind them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So fascinating. Well, anyway, and now I feel really cool because Julie's dad worked for the CIA. So by association, we're all like elevated.
We're all practically spies.
We are.
Yeah, basically we are.
All right. So are we booking the KGB story? I'm booking it. I already said booking the KGB story only because I've been dabbling with Sophia Summers' pen name. I've been dabbling with spies and suspense. And so it fits perfectly with what I'm trying to write right now. So yeah. Heather, what about you?
So I would probably say book it, but I'd also have to find a really good angle to where I feel like I could write something, because I know I watched tons of spy movies. I'm sure a lot of us have, especially for those of us who grew up in the 80s. Those were like the big hits. But I also think that studying something in Russia and learning the names of all those places, and that would be a lot of research.
Yeah. And what about you, Jennifer?
I would book it, but I'd have to change it a little. I'm terrified of the Soviet Union, and I don't want Vladimir Putin to read my book and then, know that I stole secrets. But I love the idea of him just kind of baiting the guys. That's kind of a cool, cocky thing. And you have to have a lot of confidence to be in that position. But yeah, I think that's really fun that he kind of just was like, well, look what's going to happen. It reminds me of Rocky with those guys just following him around the whole time, when he's training to fight the Soviet guy.
Oh, it's true. I agree. So someone made a comment, I think it's worth repeating. Cindy Johnson said, I agree that many of us do take our freedoms for granted. I just returned from a trip to Maryland and Washington, D.C. So grateful for the many, many people, Jamestown, Yorktown, Gettysburg, who came before that have made my life in this free country possible. So that's beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, I'm going to say I would book it.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Julie.
It's my dad's story, of course. But I do think that wouldn't it make a cute romance spy novel if it was like a guy and a girl spy set, and one was like, ha ha, watch this, and then did that little party trick or whatever. So I would book it. And I think it could make a cute little story for whatever.
Awesome. Sorry I didn't ask you, Julie. Okay, awesome. I think I'll share a really quick little bitty story. Just really quick, show the picture just so everybody knows. Long ago during World War II, our U.S. Allied troops actually created balloon tanks, and they would set up these fake military deployments to scare away the Nazis, and they've done it over 20 times, and it made it look like our little force of about 600 was really about 30,000. According to how they strategically set up these little tanks and these little fake guns and things. And they said it saved tons of lives. And they would play music and soundtrack of like the sounds of men and army. And it would like literally fool the Germans, and it helped us win the war. Anyway, just had to show that really quick before we close. Would you guys? Well, we don't even need to book that one. That's just a FYI because we're running.
We can combine that, right? We can combine it with PAR or JET.
Yeah, it's a good piece of background information to know if you are writing a war story.
Yeah,
I love it.
Cool. You're like the guy that is all, how come I don't get to use a real tank? I have to use like the bike pump to inflate tanks.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. It'd be so fun to play on.
It would be. They call it the Ghost Army, and so you'd be like, you get your assignment. You're on ghost duty today, and then
Call it. I bet there's a book called The Ghost Army, but maybe we could have another book.
We should look it up. I agree. So that's it for today, friends. We're so excited to be able to share these fun stories with you. Fiction really is fun to write, but real life has some of the best stories we've ever heard of, honestly. So remember, we're giving away a copy of the new anthology Jennifer's in, Where Dreams Meet. And tune in next time, 2 weeks from now. If you have anything you want to share with us, there's our email. We love to share your stories. If it matches the theme for the day, we include it, and it's way more fun for us. So tune in next time for Fiction
In
Real
Life. We
Yay!
did it.